So I was sitting here, bored, and I decided that I wanted to start another series on my channel. I will be, from time to time, whenever I find the inspiration, uh, reading books chapter by chapter and not really reviewing them, but kind of talking them out. I feel that as somebody who really does enjoy good stories. I think that this is a good way for me to go. A good way for me to create, a good thing for me to create. So let's just hop into it. First book, Lord of the Flies by Lois Lowry. Oh no, the afterword is by Lois. It's by William Golding. Read the just read the name on the front. My bad, William, Bill. um, All right, so let's just hop into it. Chapter one. Let me look at my notes real quick. We open with a scene of, I think, two boys, really. It was kind of hard for me to really differentiate when, I guess they kind of met at a specific time. Um, the story doesn't really get interesting until they start talking. And so it's two boys. One identifies himself as Ralph, and the other one is later identified as Piggy. Um, and really these characters are foils of one another. They Ralph is a good-looking and obvious protagonist, yet he's disinterested, absent-minded, and confident. He's confident and strong as well as good-looking. And then Piggy, a complete contrast, is fat, wears glasses. He's careful, he's patient, he's mindful, and he's seen as kind of a target by the rest of the group. Um, Most of chapter one contains basically first they find the conch that they use. They find a conch. They use this conch as a summoning horn to uh, attract all the other. Let me go back. A plane crashes on a deserted island somewhere, and a bunch of what I believe are higher class uh, British boys are found stranded. The plane that they crashed in was washed out to shore by the storm, apparently, is what Piggy says. Um, and apparently, I don't exactly remember um, if I ever learned this, and I didn't read it in the first chapter, but there is not actually like a reason why any of the kids were on the plane. Um, I might be wrong. But the point is, everybody's from, I think, a school in Britain that is doing some kind of trip, and they, for some reason, get shot or something. The plane falls out of the sky, crashes. They're on the island now. Piggy and Ralph act as complete foils because of the characteristics that I listed earlier. Piggy really becomes obvious as a supporter for Ralph in that he when Ralph is blowing the horn, Piggy makes an effort to go around and learn everybody's names. And he encourages Ralph to blow the horn. And he actually finds the horn, and he's the only one who wants to like create some kind of organization at first. And this really shows kind of the flaws with, if you've read the book, the way the book continues, because um, after all the boys are gathered on the beach by Ralph blowing his conch, another boy is introduced, and they quickly have kind of a power struggle, him and Ralph. And Ralph is elected chief of the tribe of kids, but Piggy, what is it, for some reason doesn't vote for him and doesn't vote for Jack either. I think Piggy wanted to be seen as more of a leader, but he doesn't have the charisma to go about kind of advocating for himself in the same way that Ralph did in blowing the conch. I feel, and then there's also this odd fixation on the book on bullying. Not super understand, but the concept and the motif is very strongly introduced in this chapter and really carries out throughout the book, if I'm going to be honest. After the boys decide to choose a leader, Ralph sits for a minute and he says, I got to figure out if this is an island or not. And he tells everybody that, and everybody's like, cool. What are you going to do about it? So Ralph picks out a team of 3, him, Jack, another contender for the chief spot, and a boy who fainted, I think, Simon. And Simon is shorter than, and I think younger than Ralph and Jack. And I think that this does, I can't remember, but this weird kind of distinction to pull out Simon and this choice by the author to put in the fact that he did faint differentiates him from the group. And his background, as given by Jack, kind of points to him being a weaker link. But yeah, this kind of throuple is definitely foreshadowing for conflict to come later in the book, and that should always be noted. So after the meeting and the boys find their group, they walk around the beach. The 3 boys, Ralph, Jack, and Simon, walk around the beach until they get to a point where they can no longer walk because there are a bunch of rocks. I think a lot of big rocks. I think it's like, they say that the mountain is closer to this side of the shore than any other point. So it's kind of like a rock face that they decide to climb up and to get a better view, because they've decided that it's time to stop walking around the island. We're out of trail to walk. They go up, and on the way they are playing up the stairs, and I think that both that I think we'll dive into that later. But they were playing up the way to the top of the mountain so they could get a good vantage point. Then they go up to the top of the mountain, see the view. The view is described for a little bit, and then they head back down the mountain and they encounter a boar or a piglet, because it was. I think it's a boar. I don't think there are a lot of tropical like environments that just naked aggressive pigs run around. So pretty sure it's a boar. They find a boar trapped in the thicket or in creepers, and they go and they try to kill it. But Jack, who has proclaimed himself as head of and like leader of like the hunters, goes and he hesitates because this is the first time any of the children who are on the island, which basically top out at age 12. The book is about children who are elementary and middle school aged. And so with that in mind, I think that context is really important because it gives a reason as to why the boys are so heartless when being like when they laugh at Piggy, or when they are talking in this kind of like, or if they misstep in their leadership. Like Piggy went out and introduced himself to Ralph as, not as Piggy. He said, "Please don't call me Piggy," and then Ralph called him Piggy. And then instead of like getting mad at it and throwing hands and like showing that he was genuinely frustrated, he smiled at it because he was getting attention. And I think that one of the things that this book does very well in its examination of kind of how children think is it kind of helps, if it helps it makes readers understand that children really aren't ready for leadership positions at this stage in their life. And it's like, well, that should be obvious, but you have um, these people who are in their own minds. Everybody lives their own life and has their own perspective. They want to be singular, and so I'm really a big fan of the way the author writes in the kids' behavior because they do act like children, and it really helps kind of further the plot in a way that makes sense. And to return to the point I was trying to make earlier, you have people who are relatively young to people who have their life in order. And those people do think that they can like run their own lives. And sometimes literature like this is necessary to kind of put people in their place and make them understand that like it's like, no, you're not ready. Just because people put you in a position of power doesn't mean you're the best person for the job. And the people who may be better for the job, like Piggy, who, like I said, went around learning names and insisted on having a meeting, um, kind of catch the they get short-ended, is what I'm gonna say. Yeah. Um, the chapter ends. Let me check. Chapter ends. They just missed the pig, and Jack begins his descent into kind of an ultra aggressive, um, never go back on my word kind of character, right? And we can jump a little bit more into Jack's character. Jack is introduced as an ugly, strict, unbelieving, and intimidating kind of person. He walks around, definitely is able to demand respect, um, but the way he does it is almost it's the contrast between a leader that everybody likes that is no good and a dictator. Because on one end you have an experienced person who does have some obvious experience leading a group, that being Jack. He walks up and his entire choir group is marching in line with him, all of them wearing their hoods despite being in a tropical climate. He obviously knows how to exercise control over a group, and has had experience with it. Whereas you have Ralph, who is attractive, seems easygoing, is fit. He's described to have the body of a boxer if he in his shoulders. Like he has the physique of kind of like a boxer. So he is a fit person who just kind of exudes charisma. And so that kind of comparison of a super charismatic leader that may not know exactly what they're doing versus an a dictator, right? And then, like I said earlier, Piggy didn't actually want to vote. I don't know if I said this earlier, but Piggy did not want to vote Ralph to be leader. I think that Piggy wanted to have the kids see if they wanted him to be leader because he went in and actually spent time trying to get to know people. The other thing is he's like the most useless in the group because he's extremely overweight, has uh, debilitating asthma, and really just those are the two things. And I guess from what he is, he's kind of like a detail watcher. And so you have this kind of juxtapositioning of three different leadership styles, and you see that the popular one is, well, eventually we'll get to that. Thank you for watching my first uh, review of Lord of the Flies. There, let me look at the table of contents. Find the table of contents. There are 12 chapters to this book, so I will be uploading 12 videos regarding Lord of the Flies, hopefully one a day. The podcast will still be coming out. I've got one person lined up for that. And let me know in the comments down below after you like and subscribe, of course. If what your thoughts were on the last two videos. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments down below. Tell me if there's anything I can do to make this more engaging. Maybe there's a book you want to see read. Maybe there's... I'm definitely going to go over Frankenstein in the future. Lord of the Flies was just the closest thing to me. Have a good day.